So, for anyone who wasn't listening before, or if maybe the audio was a bit dodgy, we were talking about time boxing and just what we hope the feature will achieve in general and issues that we see with it. And probably roll on to XP sources after that because they kind of like go together pretty well. You know, we're trying to achieve similar things, so again, just maybe like a brief rundown of how we actually handle XP gains in the game.
Sure, will do. Actually, just the feedback for you, the stream right now just shows a tunnel again, right?
Yeah, yeah, I know,
Just
I know.
like you are actually streaming Twitch. Okay, cool. So how do we do XP? So, the idea is that we are providing the player with 3 different sources for XP. The first XP source is, well, free XP. It's XP that you get for free while the server is running, while the server is aging. And as of now, you don't even have to be logged into the game to get that kind of XP. So basically, as the server progresses, some XP rolls into your account. Why is that a cool thing? That's because even if you can't play for a couple days, and that is, well, something that will just happen because real life happens to you, right? You'll get a little bit of progress. You'll get some extra XP, you'll get a level or two, and you'll get a couple new skills that you can select. And everybody gets that at the time. So when you log into a game world that has a certain age, then you will always notice that it has like a little bit of a different feeling because people are in a different place on the progression curve. Second kind of XP is active XP. Active XP is basically granted for anything you do in the game. You get it for PvP, by like killing someone, ganking someone, resurrecting someone. You get it for PvE, so when you last hit mobs, for example, you get it when you defeat a boss. You get it through any source of events that you do. You get it for crafting, you get it for building your settlement. Basically anything you do in the game that's interesting and active will grant you XP. And then there's a third way of getting XP. You can actually see it in the stream right now. Oh, that's my character. Wait, I should log back in.
Yeah, you just died.
And the third way of getting XP is by looting items that we currently call essences. And they're basically consumables. So they're similar to the souls in Dark Souls, I would say, as in you get them and then you can decide to use them and they give you XP, or you can use them for other purposes. Other purposes right now being crafting, being building of your settlement, and so on and so forth. The interesting part about these lootable XP items, bubbles, essences, is that they can be traded with other players. So that means if I have a lot of time and I play the game a lot, I will probably build up a reservoir of those that I can't really use myself because my character's already capped out. We're going to talk about caps in a second. But if Dave couldn't play for the last few days, then, well, bad for him. He's going to be a little bit behind the current power curve. So what we can do, if he's my guildmate, is I can just give him some of my XP, which is sweet because now he gets to level up, and well, he owes me, so good for me too. And it's a nice way for clans and friends to support each other, and also makes it interesting to figure out the trade-off between am I going to use this XP now to make a character stronger, or am I going to use it to craft this stronger item? What's more interesting? So that's pretty cool. So yeah, out of those resources, like your overtime XP, your active XP, your item XP, comes your total experience for your character. I think we should probably explain capping too, because it totally ties in with that. By capping, I mean that the maximum level that your character can have is set at a certain cap, at a certain level at every time in the game. That means if you spend a lot of time playing and you're very active and you get all XP of all sources, then at some point you will not be able to gain any more levels until some time passes. So for the, I think, 24/7 server right now, I think we'll have about 5 levels that you can gain per day, and then that's it. Why are we doing that? Mostly because we want the game to be on a relatively even playing field for people who spend different amounts of time on it. So when you have your normal MMO, then you have, and you start a new world, then you kind of have two kinds of players. The first is the like normal, casual, whatever, me kind of player who will log into the game when like the server first goes up, play a couple hours, and then be like, oh fuck, I have to go to work, I have to go to school. That's it. You come back like a day later or so, and the people who have basically spent the last 24, 36 hours playing are at cap. They are at maximum level. They have maximum power. They've seen everything. They've done everything. And in a PvP game, there's no fucking way you can compete with them. And that's fucking boring. That's like really annoying. So while what I want the cap to do is I want it to keep people at a similar power level. That doesn't mean that someone who spends a lot of time won't be stronger, because they will be. They will have, on average, a little bit of a higher level. They will have better equipment. They probably have a better position in the game, maybe a stronger settlement, but they won't be stronger by the factor of 1,000, therefore not being attackable anymore. So this keeps people together. It also kind of forces you, nudges you away from just spending your time mindlessly farming, and gets you to do things that are more interesting. So at the point where you are completely maxed out in XP and essences, there's no point farming them anymore, so maybe some people will be more nudged towards like actually doing something more interesting like PvP, instead of having in their head that nagging feeling that, oh no, I haven't maxed out this yet, I still have to farm. Because we as people tend to kind of do that a lot. We kind of tend to be tempted by stuff we could grind. So I don't want to offer that grind too much. I hope that's understandable.
Yeah.
Do you like recognize that feeling? The need to grind?
Oh yeah, dude, I'm like hopeless at it. That's why like I get stuck in games like Ark, where it's just like, you know, you could log out, or you could just like cut down 70 more trees so that you can put like a roof on your crappy little shack, instead of like the grind in that game is like absurd, but I can't stop playing it. One thing that I thought might be interesting to mention, like it's not really anything to go on about for ages, but how you and I were discussing yesterday the potential for changing from a XP cap chasing kind of system to a static.
Yeah, so right now the way that the cap works is that it basically increases every couple seconds. So as someone who like plays a lot, you will always be like relatively close to that XP cap. You'll be like at like 99, 98, whatever %, and you always have that like feeling that like, shit, I'm not done. So we're gonna try out next to make this changes into a system where the cap grows in like jump like bigger differences every like maybe hour or maybe every day actually, and then we'll see how that's gonna feel, because that's gonna give you the feeling that, okay, so for today I've reached the cap and I'm done, and then it's, I don't know, whatever, like midnight, and you're like, okay, now I can gain another 5 levels. See how that feels. So I'm not sure yet which is gonna work better. The like current system like kind of keeps you engaged and striving to be maxed at all time. The other system might make it a little more like relaxed for that, but it also obviously gives you like this like big boom, oh shit, 5 more levels to gain right now. So I'm not sure which one's gonna work best, but I think we're gonna try out the other one next. See how it feels.
Yeah, I think it for what we were talking about, like making people not feel like they need to be grinding away, because that's how like that sort of XP system always makes me feel I'm always like, I could be gaining more XP. I could be. Whereas if like I have quotas and I have that like goal, I can be like, all right, I've done it. I feel like I've kind of attained what I need to for today. I can either kind of mess about and do stuff for a bit longer, but if I log out, I'm not really missing out on anything progress-wise.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see if people like maybe like some people might be switched in like 2 different times and mostly like, oh shit, I still have XP to game, let's go farm, and then XP is full. Okay, now let's do other stuff. Let's do PvP now. I wonder if that's something that people are gonna do. Good thing about our game though is like even if you are going out to just farm, you will probably never just farm because there's always other players around. Like PvP is around every corner, right? So if you're gonna play on the playtest on Saturday and you just wanna farm, it's very likely that at some point you're gonna meet me and my bow and I'm gonna like backstab you. so it's hard to not have PvP sometimes.
Well, I was gonna say that the next thing I had to talk about wasn't really like segueing in from that other stuff that well, but it kind of does now that you mentioned that. I thought maybe you could talk about the combat system in general, like mainly, I guess, like how the abilities aim and how everything's free aim, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think you probably have to show it because, well...
Yeah, well, I can do stuff while you're talking.
Well, the core... So a combat system. Combat system is like the very first... It's not the first thing I thought about when we were making the game, or when I was like starting to work on the game, but it was the very first thing that we ever tried out. So we had... I don't know, we started prototyping a combat system about 3 years ago now, and we've been working on it since like until today, and it's like still not 100% finished. But whatever. So core thing is you move with WASD, right? Which to me is a way more natural way of moving a character than like click, and then your character runs there. I do play Dota, and I have played League of Legends, and I have played basically every other MOBA out there in the world, but I still think that a strategy game style combat system is too detached from your character for a single character game. I love the WASD movement scheme. This leaves the mouse open for aiming, and the cool thing that we can do in that combination is that as you see it when Dave runs around, right? So your character always faces the way that where your mouse cursor is turns around. This is pretty cool because that means that other people can see in which direction you are looking right now. And since we gave our character a bit of a blind spot in the back, so you cannot see anything that's right behind you, that's super awesome because now you can like sneak up on people. I think I really remember like the first time I really exploited this in like, I don't know, 2.5 years ago in one of our prototypes. It's really awesome. Like someone was just like really distracted with a boss and I was like sneaking around, sneak, going through the bushes, like kind of like getting behind him and then like get 2 really nice shots off. It's fun. It's also interesting with someone like Strono Pro, they sometimes have to turn around, look at you, see, are you still there? Which slows them down a little bit. That's cool. But that's just like that's just movement and vision. It's pretty basic. Like obviously we also have a line of sight in the game, where I don't know if I try to hide behind those trees, then they probably can't see me.
I totally can. Yeah, I got like a huge amount of vision here.
Yeah, line of sight in trees is a little bit hard to judge still.
Yeah.
They're trees, right? They're not completely blocking stuff. Fine.
Well, I don't know where you went now.
I'm just going up into the sea, so if I'm behind this wall, I know that I'm invisible, and once you come into the settlement, I know that I'll get you. Okay. You can run, but you can't hide. Oh yeah, you can't hide because you leave footsteps behind, right? We've talked about footsteps a lot. So that's also something that I think more games should do, and I'm not sure why more games are not doing it, but every character in our game leaves behind footsteps. And that is awesome, because it gives you like the ability to track people down. Like if I start running away, then Dave's like, okay, where did that guy go? and you can just like follow my footsteps at least for a while until they despawn. I think right now they despawn in like a minute or so, which is cool because that leads to like a little bit less like just running away from people, and a little bit more PvP, but also like gives you another ability to train, like to analyze footsteps. Like, okay, how many different sets of footsteps are these? In which direction are they going? What do they mean? Are they crisscrossing and stuff? Did like combat happen here, or is this just an army moving through? Super interesting. I also want to expand this. Not sure how soon, but I will expand it to a system where every different kind of character will leave behind different kind of footstep. So at this point, you can really be a tracker and figure out something like, okay, 6 people went here, 3 of them were wearing heavy armor, and 2 of them were archers. That kind of thing. Which is pretty cool. I think that's a really useful skill to have, because not everybody in the game will always just be focused on like straight into the face combat. There's always people who prefer like a more sneaky approach, or who like want to be the scout for a big army. It's also something I enjoy a lot, so that's something I want to build into the game too. Sneaky.
Yeah, I think weird kind of roles like that is something that I've always kind of got into. Like a lot of the you know, games like Arma, and you know how there's a lot of people who do that kind of semi-serious like military play where they'll actually have ranks and like everyone will have roles and that sort of stuff. Always found that kind of thing really interesting, and they'll have people who all they do when they play the game is like scout and stuff like that. I like the idea of like us having cartography and things like that, so that people, you know, maybe a huge part of what they do is they make maps for everyone. Like they'll actually go out and like plot the features of the map and then like create maps for everyone. That sort of stuff.
Yeah, that's the long-term goal, right, of making a sandbox game. You will want to make a game that allows different people to like play different roles that they enjoy. So one guy wants to be a really like frontline shock trooper. One wants to be like a healer that heals everybody. One wants to really be the commander of the army. One wants to be the scout. One wants to take care of like building and economics. One is really happy about like being like a solo rogue trader of sorts. Some just wants to be a backstabbing assassin. And all those things should be possible. And I hope we can like put a couple more of these like smaller features in that allow for like more players to do stuff that's interesting to them, while still being a 100% PvP centric game. So it's highly unlikely that we're going to put stuff in that allows someone to just 24/7 farm with, well, I don't think it's not going to happen. Just 24/7 farm without meeting other players. That's not going to happen. It'll always be you playing your role in this relatively harsh PvP environment.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that again, that kind of covers a little bit what I was going to say next anyway. What in the game, like both currently and, you know, for what we have planned, what sort of situations, like go over the sort of situations you can expect to find yourself like being a part of PvP, you know, whether you come across someone out in the open or, you know, siege fights, what sort of situations are PvP?
Lots of them. I don't know, like, so there's just, I'll see this from like, how would my day look like kind of perspective. So,
Yeah.
Say I log into the game, and I've played for like 2 days, and I'm like, okay, cheers, I have this stuff here, okay. I know if I do like one more level, I can get like new ability, finally have a proper snare for my character, so I'm probably like gonna go out and see like, okay, there's a mob here, kill that mob, okay, I'll probably go to like my favorite camp. It's not in like guild territory, but it's a spot that's like really like easy to farm for me. I'll just go down, I'll see if I kill a couple monsters, and then the thing is happening is I probably will run to someone who is in that camp, right? Because the worlds are relatively small. There's not that many of those mob camps, especially good ones will be taken, and see like, okay, shit, there's 2 people there. They're part of an enemy guild. What do I do? Like if they were neutral, I would probably be like, hey guys, can I stick around with you, get some XP? Since they're my enemies, I'm probably like, no, fuck you. So what will I do? I'll probably start sneaking up on them. So I tend to play, when I play solo, archer, sneaky characters. So I'll probably like try to like get in around them, get in behind them, find a bush that I can hide in. I'll watch them. I'll watch till they're like in a situation that's not optimal for them. Say one of them is like under 50% health, or one of them like just like draw too many mobs. I'll like start out by snaring the first player, trying to get him like killed by the mobs, then start focusing on the second player, then kind of take over that camp. That might be one fight. And then it's just back in, but I'll farm it until they come back, right? So at this point I have to switch into kind of defensive mode, where I will probably put myself into the camp in a way so that they can't sneak up on me as I did on them. And have the mobs between me and them, and this might work or might not, and then they probably come back and they might be better prepared and they'll try to get me, so I'm going to run away. So a lot of the part that's happening here, like since I now have loot in my inventory that I don't want to lose, I'm probably trying to like shake them off. I'll try to get to spots where I don't leave behind footsteps, like hide in the bushes again, run to the forest, that kind of thing. So at this point, I might have made my level or might not. I go back to my settlement, I do train a little bit, I equip my stuff. I'm like, fuck this shit. Okay, now I'm angry. I want to like get back to them. I don't know. I might try to say figure out where their settlement is and try to get into that. Maybe I'll take a couple of my friends with me. So running up to their settlement. Problem is, we find out that okay, shit, their settlement is walled off. We can't get to there right now, right? We could start a siege right now, but we don't have the resources for that. So what we're gonna do? We might figure out, okay, where do those guys get their resources from, and how do we get them from them? So I figure out that, okay, they have the Eastern Clay Pit. Eastern Clay Pit produces clay and experience for them. Let's take it away from them. So I know this thing is, the Clay Pit is accessible, attackable once a day, and the next time is in half an hour, so perfect. I'll try to like get my team together, like see who's online right now, get, I don't know, 5-6 people, form a group, and like strike at them. So then, well, depends on how active they are. It could be that we can like be there first. We'll take over the pit, and then we try to defend it. Right? We try to like set up a scout that tells us when they are coming from their settlement. We try to set up our group so that we have favorable grounds in combat. Maybe our damage dealers a little more sneak in the back. Maybe have like a tight spot that we can control. We try to like they come in with their army, we come in with ours. We beat them because we're so awesome. They might respawn once or twice, try it again, and so on and so forth. At some point, we have claimed their resources. Then this probably goes on for a couple of days, right? You steal their stuff, they steal your stuff, they steal your stuff, you steal their stuff, and so on and so forth. At some point, this escalates. You're like, okay, fuck this shit. These people need to go. They need to be gone from our lands. So you start a siege on their settlement. To start a siege, you need a lot of resources, so you will, and you'll need to protect it. So you probably will want to make sure that a lot of your people are online when you start that siege. You get the siege offering to need. You go to their settlement. You place the siege. You defend the siege spot. It's unlikely that they are gonna directly be able to defend it because they don't know yet that this is gonna happen. But other clans who might be around might be opportunistic enough to like jump in and try to steal that siege from you, because sieging a city allows you to take over someone's settlement, which is very valuable. And if you already paid for it, well, they could actually jump in and take that over from you, so maybe you will have to actually fight out some people here. If that has not happened, then there's a standoff period, and so on. I'm not going into just too much right now. Basically means at some point, at a point where the defender decides, there will be a big fight. And this is where you bring everybody, this is where they bring everybody. This is highly likely where you will call in your allies, if you want that. It's very likely where the defender will call in their allies or make new ones because they just don't want to fucking lose their settlement. So this is the point where your 10, 15, or 20 people might be faced with 50 others. So this is where it gets a little chaotic and hectic. So now you really find out if you have a proper group that can like deal with those situations. Like, can you stick together enough to be able to cross heal each other, while at the same point not being like one big ball that gets like hit by AoEs all the time. This is a point where it's also really important to have scouts around to know like about troop movements, like where is their army right now. Are they gonna flank me? Are they gonna split up? Or are they gonna like, just meet me head on? That's gonna be super interesting. So and so on and so forth. There's like multiple different versions of how these fights are gonna go. They exist in all like different sizes. It could be me going out all alone, just trying to get some resources from like some meteors that are crashing down, meeting solo other people who are doing the same. It might be me beating people while they or I am farming. It might be big resource fights. It might be sieges. A ton of those things. And then there's a million of other events that we have planned that also should serve as a background for PvP. Or I'll just find someone like Dave and try to
Nah.
them and back.
I healed you when you were dying. God, my lag is like so severe at the moment.
I was gonna say, like, I tend to not kill people who have like G-Leg because they came from Australia.
Yeah, dude, look at my. If people want to see my ping, that is my ping up the top left. 350. Good
It's pretty rough.
times.
Actually, I'm playing, like, right now I'm playing from the US, from the West Coast, and our server is in Central Europe, and I have a ping of about 180, and this is actually going really well. Like, normally I advocate for people to have a ping of, like, less than 100, or actually more likely 50,
Yeah.
which is something that we can actually,
Whoa.
if we have decent players numbers, do, because we have relatively small worlds, so we can log them all over the world. But actually, even 200 works really well for me. Like,
Yeah, I've
played-
managed.
I played like we did like a playtest with like just a couple of us a couple of days ago, and I didn't feel hindered in PvP at all. Like, I think there's still an advantage to having like a really good ping, a really low ping, but
Yeah.
it's not as massive anymore as it was like in earlier versions of the game, which is pretty.
Yeah, no, I think it's like normally I'd hover at about 200 or so. It's just the stream and everything combined. I was gonna follow onto that what sort of alternatives are we sort of offering to just straight up like beating each other in the face as far as you know, like winning the game, so to speak. You know, like diplomatic victory and that sort of stuff. Like for example, the tracking that we currently have, like the leaderboards that show various which you touched on a little. You touched on that a little bit anyway, like talking about the clans kind of competing against each other. But
Yeah, so this is a thing that's still like going to be heavily in development, but basically like leaderboards are like first small scale experiment. I have to figure out like what will actually make you win the game. Like, if you open the leaderboards window, Dave, then people can actually see that there's 4 different statistics.
I totally forget the key.
Ranking.
What's the key?
It's T.
T.
It's T, but it's also in the menu. So, anyway, so it's 4 different things that we're tracking. And since my client just disconnected me, I can't even see them. But the first one is Dominion,
Yep.
and Dominion basically is how much do you dominate this game world. Like, Dominion is gained by like getting a settlement, getting it really early, taking stuff from your enemies, winning sieges, being like aggressive and like taking like competitive objectives. Prosperity is different, as in prosperity you gain whenever you have material gains. So if you loot resources, if you manage to own resource spawns, if you manage to take over small events, if you craft, if you build, then you gain prosperity. Elegance is basically a factor of, it is basically a child of Dominion, in a way that it gets, like, it rises when Dominion rises, but it's always divided by how aggressive you are. So killing people, ganking people, setting aggressive sieges on other players' settlements, all that stuff decreases your elegance. So if you are a clan that is more into diplomatic victory, you'll definitely try to maximize elegance. So you'll try to get someone else's settlement not by just sieging them, but by maybe bribing them, or maybe starving them out until they sell it out to you. Or maybe you can find a way to sneak a spy into their clan and at some point maybe abandon their settlement and like, get over to you. But that's the kind of like diplomatic spy victory you can do. And then efficiency is a factor of prosperity, but it decreases with lots of manpower spent. So we also want to reward small groups of people, small groups of players who are really organized, who are really strong at playing together. And so while you maybe cannot farm up as many resources as a clan would, like with your 5 people as a clan with like 100 people, you can be way more efficient. So maybe you want to beat them on efficiency. And these all are relatively like rough stats so far, and I think eventually they're gonna turn into a little bit more of a mission-based system. But basically, you'll have different ways to like win the server. Yeah, in the end, it's a sandbox world, right? So I'm trying not to overdo this here and like tell you this is the way that the game is meant to be played.
Mm-hmm.
Because in a sandbox, it's important for people to just figure out how they want to play it, and I want to make it all passable. But I also want to make sure that like you can measure like who was successful in ways that they do and stuff. So maybe this is like a really big speculation. Like maybe later, in later versions of the game, you'll actually pick one goal, like diplomatic victory or a spy victory or military victory, and you'll win the server if you reach that goal first. That might be a thing that might happen. So you can compete on different levels. But we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Next thing I had to talk about was events. So that is kind of like completely on a different tangent, but mainly because I guess the small events are fresh in the game. A lot of people probably haven't seen them. But again, like feel free to go into grander plans that you have like for further down the track.
Yeah. So events. If you open up the world map, Dave, then people can probably see that there's a meteor on our radar right now and a carcass on the east.
Mm-hmm. So
events are mostly tied to locations on the world map. This is a little bit of a set of systems that it's going to be different things, right? Like event to me is a very broad category of something is happening at a specific time at a specific point, and that something that's happening is meant to attract people, players. So you know that there's someone around that you can like interact with in a way that you can trade with or that you can fight with, that kind of thing. And that's why events will happen in different sizes. So, for example, if we have really simple one close by to us here. If we walk up,
yeah, my inventory was just going mental. Sorry.
If we walk up to the east, and you can probably see that soon, there's a carcass here. That is like the first super simple version of a tiny event. It's basically a pack animal has died close by. The caravan has already moved further. Like, do you want to loot this animal? And this is something that you can see on the world map, but you can't see it very far. So only a couple of people who are in the area will probably have seen that. So you come up here, you can loot that thing. We can do that right now. And then, okay, shit. I put that in soon. Like, mobs are now spawning. They're attacking me, so I'm try to not die.
And I'm not much use because I'm lagging so much.
I'll try to deal with them quickly, so you'll survive. And see if I can kill you with mine. And goodbye. So, but basically this thing is visible on the map. Now other people can see that I just claimed it. They know, okay, there's a resource here, there's a player here. Maybe I'll attack that person. this thing I have to defend for a set amount of time. Later on, I can loot it, and people again will see that this is now lootable. This is like a tiny, tiny, tiny example of something that basically attracts a small amount of players to a certain spot at a certain time. This can be done in many, many, many variations that are fancier than this. For example, we have fights that are about resource spawns, and those fights, like, while these small events like basically spawn every 5 minutes, they're very common. The resource fights will not be. They will most likely at a later point happen like once a day at a set time, say like 8 p.m. or so, 6 p.m., whatever like is prime time for people. So at this point, you'll know, okay, there's a fight gonna happen about this place at this time, and this will attract, like, again, a certain amount of people. In this case, more likely to attract bigger groups of players, or medium-sized groups of players. Then there's stuff like Siege. Siege, for example, is also an event, right? At a certain time, you know that days in advance, in a certain spot, a settlement, big fight is going to happen. It's about a really, really big thing. Settlement, like, it doesn't really get much better in the game as far as rewards go, so you'll expect a lot of people there. And I want to do this at all different kinds of level of events. I want to have, like, for example, caravans that go through the valley that you have to either protect if you're one clan, or that you have to steal from if you're the other clan. I want to have boss mobs that spawn that could grant you like many riches, but also are like really hard to defeat. So you probably need a big group for that, and again, that will probably attract multiple people. So you can expect PvP with your PvE here. We have a lot of examples of events, I think, on the website. Let me quickly check where we have them. Oh yeah, in the about part, there's an events page, and that has like tons of examples of other events. There could be a raid by mobs. There could be a surge in a mob camp, a bounty hunt. There could be you raiding someone else's settlement, but just trying to get their resources, not the settlement itself.
Where is it? Sorry, on the website?
On the website, under About and then Events.
Events.
justalgame.com/events.
I am.
Many of those. And so these are things that we're gonna put into the game over time, right? We've got the first 3 events into the game: resource fights, sieges, and there's like small events. And every couple of weeks, every couple of months, however fast we are, we're gonna add more of those. So we have different kinds of events that attract different people at different times, that play differently. Some of them are like more capture the flaggy, some of them are more open. Totally depends on what we want to do. But in the end, the important part is to like get people to meet at one spot, because the one thing that I hate about completely unstructured sandbox worlds is that they tend to be huge, vast worlds with a handful of players that never see each other because they're in totally different parts of the map, and they will never ever even meet. And so, well, eventually they lock out because they're fucking bored. And other than making every player visible to every other player, which is a little bit horrible, this is my way of actually making this attraction happen. So I give you points that are like attracting people, like, ooh, shiny. That's the way you know you're very likely to find someone else. Which we are gonna try out at our next playtest on Saturday, which is gonna be pretty awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, this weekend's playtest should be good. I'm pretty keen to see how people react to the boss mob as well. That was actually pretty, like, quite a bit of fun, just like the few of us like trying to take it down.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's not a like super awesome, interesting boss fight as like you would expect from a game like, say, a World of Warcraft, who spent 15 years on making PvE encounters. It's never gonna reach that level of sophistication, but it gets really interesting because it happens in a PvP world, right? So while you're dealing with the mob, you will always also have to deal with other players. You might have to set up your perimeter. You might want to kite the boss away from them. You might try to not get backstabbed. That's gonna be really interesting.
That used to bum me out so hard in Arcade when I'd be like fighting some hectic mob in, you know, unprotected area and someone would just come along and gank you. You'd just be like, God damn it. Clearly not prepared.
I was gonna say, like, preparation is everything, right?
Yeah.
Like, you never fight in open ground where they can do that. You have to, like, do your PvE a little differently in a PvP game.
Yeah, but I'm lazy when it comes to PvP.
I wonder, like, how I would do this. I think I would try to pull the boss up until this, like, little peninsula on the right side of the map under the miner flock. Like, try to kill him in here and then have my team, like, a little, like, scouting outside, so whenever someone else is attacking, we can, like, split away from the boss and go up to them.
Yeah.
Let's.
What I had next was to talk a bit about the new crafting system. Mainly because, you know, it is... I know it's still very much like work in progress, but you've got like something solid that we're going to be testing at some point reasonably soon. So I guess go over how it works and...
You want to show the Excel prototype? Because I think else it's going to be really tough to explain.
Not sure if I have it on this computer. Yeah, no, I don't.
I can try to give like a quick little bit of a summary. So, equipment is one of the ways to progress in the game. One of the main way is you get experience, and for experience you get new abilities, and you can level up those abilities, and you can build different ability builds. And that's all like active skills, right? It's things you can do. Whereas equipment is a thing that gives you passive attributes. Those attributes right now are health, energy, run speed, determination, which is crowd control resistance stat. It's going to be ability cast speeds, ability cooldown timer, and mental and physical resistance. And you'll be able to craft items with those attributes on them. Each of the base item sets will have a base set of characteristics. So, for example, a splint mail set has a relatively high health and relatively low energy stats, whereas a leather armor set has a relatively high speed level. And the bow, for example, also like helps you to like be relatively speedy, and also has really good recast times, that kind of thing. Now, the one way we could have done that is to just make. Let me help. Good. Okay. So the easiest way we could have done it is just like, I don't know, level 1 leather armor gives you +1 speed, and level 2 gives you +2, and level 10 gives you +10. And so on. And so equipment just gets stronger as like you get a higher level, and that basically means people who have higher level equipment will most likely win to people who have lower level equipment, and that's it, right? Is not super interesting to me because I mostly want player skill to be the deciding factor in who wins in PvP. So the way I've come up with a system is that, man, there's so many mobs attacking me.
Yeah.
What do you guys want from us? We just try to stream here.
I just healed one.
You just heal that guy. Why are you healing that guy?
Because I'm a traitor, I don't know.
So yes, you can heal monsters if you're stupid. Out of this. Okay, that was a good nuke. You're doing your job here.
Yeah, it's...
Goodbye. So where were we? Equipment progression. So yeah, so instead of just like making more expensive equipment scale up in power and just make you significantly stronger, therefore you win all games, I'm trying to make it so that stronger equipment allows you to specialize your character more, while at the same time increasing the drawbacks you have for that. So, for example, on a low-level set of leather armor, you could increase your speed statistic by a little bit. And this means you'd have to increase something else. You'd have to decrease something else to make up for it. So, for example, I could decide that I just have a little less health points on this character. On a really high level leather armor, I can increase my speed value by a lot, so I can become really much faster than somebody else. But to make up for that, I also have to decrease something else. So maybe I have to cut my HP really down by a lot, or maybe I'll just cut my HP down a little bit, and also sacrifice some energy, for example, or some mental resistances, whatever. So basically, this allows you to do really specialized character builds if you have expensive equipment that might work well in a certain kind of build or a certain kind of spec group, or just for you as a player really well. But they will always come with a drawback that other people can exploit. So they won't just make you stronger in everything and you win. They make you stronger if you play your cards right, and also you can specialize in different kind of characters. So while two people could have the same kind of setup, say they both wear a rope and they have a totem, they could be spec'd on totally different things. One player could go more into high health points, lower cast time so he can stay alive for very long, while the other player could spec himself to be really great at kiting, for example. So that's my basic concept. So higher level equipment should give you more options and should allow you to specialize more, while not generally just making you stronger. And that's something that we're going to try out, I think, next month. It's going to be interesting for us.
Yeah. Let's see, I had a bunch of questions for that. Oh god, I'm getting attacked.
Good. Sit down. Good cheek.
The next thing that I had written down was to talk. Was to talk about the skill system itself and how it will correspond with the crafting system at all. But and that's something that you and I haven't really talked about very recently, anyway. I mean, because we've kind of tossed around a similar idea to the crafting. We don't want it to just be a standard increase where if you put points in a skill, it just increases the damage that it does, or just increases the healing that it does, or something like that.
Well, it will to a degree. So, as with equipment, there is some power progression in there, and so right now, let's go back a little bit. So you have abilities. These are the active things you can do, right? Abilities come from your weapon set and from your armor set. You can you have access to a big number of abilities, but you can only take a certain amount of them with you in combat. Right now, that's 8 of them. These abilities can, so while your character levels up, you gain the ability to have more abilities. I can't help you if I can't see you. There you go. So at first, your character only has a couple of those abilities, 3 or 4 of them. Later on, you gain more to put them in your skill bar. You max it out till 8, and as you progress in your character levels, you will gain the ability to unlock more abilities. So at this point, you have 8, but you can select from, say, 16 of them, which gives you a lot of flexibility in how you want to build your character, and gives you the chance to have a different setup for different kind of fights. So, for example, if I want to run with my archer in a solo, PvP capacity, I'm probably gonna have 1 or 2 escapes with me. I'm gonna probably spend a lot of effort on crowd control. Maybe try to be sneaky. Whereas if I run the same character in a spec group where I'm the range damage dealer, I'm probably gonna do stuff that is mostly great range damage dealing, because I know other people are gonna tank for me and keep people away. So that's the one thing you can modify your character. You can get lots of different ability builds. This is very much inspired by the first Guild Wars. The other thing you can do over time is you can increase the level of your abilities. And in general, a higher level ability will be stronger than a lower level ability. But again, this might also come with drawbacks. So while my standard bow shot makes more damage, the more ability points I put in it, it will, for example, also cost me more mana. So I will be able to do a lot more damage in a shorter amount of time, but then again, I'm going to run dry way faster. So I will have to think about, like, will I actually get the equipment that gets me more energy so I can do that for a longer amount of time, or will I just be a person like with spike damage for a short time? You'll have to figure out. The other thing that you'll be able to do over time is to specialize more in certain skills. So in the beginning, you will be forced to use abilities from both your weapon and your armor set, and you will be able to put your skill points in them, but only to a certain level. Say, like, I don't know, it's like random examples, but at level 3, you can only level each of your skills, each of your abilities until level 3. So if you have 24 skill points, each of them can go up to level 3. But if your level progresses, you unlock the possibility to put way more skill points into one single ability. So for example, I could put my super high damage ranged nuke, I could put like 20 skill points in it. And that would make it really strong. The problem is that also, like, obviously costs me 20 skill points, and that means I have to take them out of something. So that means my escapes will be weaker, my crowd control abilities will be weaker, and so on and so forth. So again, by leveling up, you do not, like, just gain straight up power. You gain up the ability to specialize more, and that comes with power in some sectors, but it also comes with drawback in others. It's like very much a min-maxers kind of game, which is not surprising because that's something I enjoy a lot.
Yeah, I dig it as well. Being able to specialize your build, like, one of the things. Well, it's like a very classic sort of argument that people make about games like WoW is just the cookie cutter sort of scenario. Like, you know, you get to max level and get all the gear in the game, and you're exactly the same as any other person who's the same class if they're geared out correctly. You know, like, there's most of the time not really that much debate about different builds or gear. It's like, that is the build.
Yeah, that's like, if I remember back in my days of playing Shadowbane or playing a Guild Wars, I think I've spent more time in theoretically building character builds than actually playing them sometimes. And not even like just for my character, like for your whole guild, for your whole spectrum. So like, okay, I need 10 character builds now for 10 characters that work perfectly together. This character will get a little bit more speed, this character will be better, and so on and so forth. This is like really interesting. And it's like way more interesting than like, we're gonna bring 3 warriors and 3 artists and 3 healers, and all of them are gonna have next level abilities and next level skill stakes.
Yeah.
That's just super boring, right?
Yeah. It's something I actually really enjoyed about Arcade as well. Being able to swap out like one skill tree, like on the fly, and try different things.
Yeah, that's also something that I want people to do over time. That the longer a server goes, the more I want them to be able to try out different abilities, add more stuff, figure out new builds. And since every game world, hopefully at some point, will have different sets of balancing values, different skills, abilities available. Balance on every game world will also be different, so they actually have to figure out what is good in this world, what doesn't really work that one. It's
Yeah. The next thing I made a note of was the game world itself. So like the map, but also like, I mean, biomes and things like that. I guess like the point would be, what do we plan to have in the game in the near future, and also you know, what are the plans for the longer term?
It's actually interesting because like that's something that like you might be able to like answer better than I am. So you built this whole world map, right?
Potentially.
Next to gonna make. Just go for it. I'll shout when I disagree.
All right. Well, I mean, obviously, the easiest thing to say is that we plan to keep expanding the size of the game world to meet with the population, and also just how much content we have to fill the game world with. So, you know, we've got events, we've got things that we can use to flesh out the game world to make it more interesting, so people aren't just walking across empty expanses. And on top of that, obviously the new biomes, because which you would have seen in the other streams if you've been following the art streams at all, or you can watch the highlight later actually if you want to, when Michaela and I did some work on one of the new biomes. But that's definitely one of the next steps as well, making the world more diverse in the sense of colors and things like that, just different areas. People get a bit bored, like, I mean, probably us more than anyone, considering the amount of time we spend in the game. Like when you're walking around looking at orange for, you know, a long period of time, you kind of start from wanting to see a bit more color. So you know, we've got plans for a sort of cold mountainy biome and also a swamp, which are coming along pretty nicely. Like I wouldn't say it'll be too long before we get to see at least some sort of mock-up environments of that.
Yeah. So if you open the world map,
yes,
then you'll see a couple of things. A, that our current world map is really small, and actually once you put like 100 people in there, it's really packed. So we're trying to make a world that's not too big, because if the world's too big, again, that leads to the problem that everybody's like in different spaces, they never meet each other, and the game is fucking boring. We want people to meet each other, so we're gonna make our game world always a little rather too small than too big. But this one is obviously too small. So yeah, we're gonna add new land masses and new biomes. Biomes, one, have the they are supposed to make the game a little bit more diverse in looks, so they should look different, but they should also feel different. So long term, I also want them to have like different environments and play differently. That's also something we've already tried in here. Like fighting in the grasslands in the north feels different than fighting in the forest in the south. The forest is very restricted, grasslands are very open. I want to have more of those things in there. I long term want to get different environments that like require you to play differently. Say, I want to add quicksand that if you stand in one spot for too long, you start like kind of like, well, getting swallowed up by the sand. I'm not sure how that's going to work. Maybe it'll damage you, maybe it'll make you even slower. But that's might be an environment where you want to run around all the time. Or maybe we can like make a ice lake environment where actually if you run, then it's going to be pretty hard because you're going to slide around. So maybe you want to like fight more in a more static way, static sorts. So long term, these different biomes, these different environments also come with different kind of playstyles. So you actually have to adapt your playstyle in each area of the game world. So if you come from like a desert environment, that's your home base, and you try to invade someone who lives up in the mountains, down the jungle, you'll actually have to learn new tactics. That's going to be super interesting to me.
Yeah, I didn't really think about the sort of opportunities it gives for different game mechanics and things like that. I mean, the first thing that came to my head for some reason when Mikhail put up some of the screenshots was just like, oh, we could make the fog of war like actual fog, like in the kind of mountainy area, because it's all not, you know, nice and cold. I can just imagine like creepy white mist.
Yeah. No, definitely. But like the visual part is also like super important. Like you just want a little bit of diversity in your game world. Else it like doesn't feel that much like a world. It feels more restricted than it kind of is.
Yeah.
And so while the world will be small, it should not necessarily feel small.
Another thing that you and I haven't talked about in quite a while is our plans for random generation, and I guess like both how far we plan to take that and maybe how we're going to technically tackle it, like whatever you want to touch on that subject. Because I remember, like quite a while ago, we talked about how we wanted to handle it, but we haven't talked about it recently.
Yeah. So, well, random generation is always like a word that I don't like that much because it's not gonna be random. I don't really subscribe to the idea that we like build a piece of level world generation code, drop in a seed, and then bam, there's no world, there's a new world, there's a new world, there's a new world, the like Minecraft approach, because it gets like a little bit generic and a little bit boring. I wanna make a system where we can have semi-custom worlds. So while the base of the world will be generated in a completely different way, it should be possible for a level artist to touch up the world and add a couple interesting spots and tweak a couple things. But yeah, we should probably talk about why we want like different kind of worlds. So if you play the same map again and again, that can be interesting in a game that is chess-like in nature, where you just like want to hone your abilities. Like chess playfield is always the same, right? It doesn't really work. Chess or Dota, for example, people have played the same map more or less for 7 years, 8 years. That is something we can also do, but we find it more interesting if you actually have to adapt to different changing environments. So long term, I want you, when you join a new world map, to not really know like where are the good like mob spots, where are the resources this time. Like I want different dynamics to come out of different kind of world sets. For one example, in one world map, all the diamonds, like I'm making random stuff here, but all the diamonds are like collected in the north, and diamonds are really important for big mana pools. So one clan that settles up in the north will have like the extreme monopoly over stuff that gives them a lot of mana. So that allows them to like spec abilities that like need a lot of mana, or they eat up a lot of mana, but also they dish out a lot of damage, for example. So how do you, if you're a different clan, get around that problem? Whereas in a different world, that might not be a thing. In a different world, it might be that like all the diamond spots are like very evenly distributed on the map. Everybody gets a little bit of it, and everybody can like do that at some point. I also want to have scouting be important here again. So scouting is not only something that happens like in small scale PvP, it can also be important in like large scale. So you start on a new world map and you want to expand your clan. You want to get like find out where the best resources are. Well, then you probably have to get around and figure it out. Long term, there will be kind of a fog of war on the world map, and you'll actually have to start uncovering this world, figure out where are the resources here, where the mob spawns here, and this knowledge is gonna become not commodity, but like something that's actually like important and valuable. So you will probably try to keep this knowledge from your enemies. Maybe like block off a path so people can't come into your environment and figure out what stuff you have down there. Or maybe you have a map of your part of the world map that everybody in your guild has access to. But someone like who's like, yeah, I don't like this guild anymore. I'm gonna move over to the enemies and I'll take this map with you. So now you have the problem that the enemy knows how your lands look like and where your resources are, so they can raid you. Well, you can't do the same thing to them. So that's gonna be really awesome, and that can only happen if the worlds are different every time they start. If it's always the same world, then well, you just look up the map on the internet and that's it. And that's how it is right now. But long term, I really want there to be a need for scouting to figure out how this current world map is set up.
Yeah, I should say semi-randomly generated.
Maybe in the end it'll be fully randomly generated. We'll figure it out. But I have the feeling that there will always be like
touching up.
Shuff away.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm keen to like make new game worlds anyway. I think I'll definitely like set it in next month's goals that I maybe like expand the map out to be like 6 squares instead of the 4, something like that. Be pretty
I think
cool.
it's time for like a little bit of an expansion, so we can have a little bit like bigger amounts of players in our playtest next time, and 24/7. A couple more settlements in there, and maybe it's time to look at the new biomes and put them in the spots. We'll see.
Yeah. Um, the next note that I have is how we're going to handle basically a metagame and have people actually kind of be striving to do things other than just going out and PvPing each other. Like, what goals will people have, or not only goals but opportunities to, I guess, yeah, strive for doing more than just going out and doing the basics.
Yeah. So this is a thing that's like pretty theoretical so far.
Yeah.
We just but in general, like, I see different ways for where we can push this. One is like pretty obvious, kind of like achievement emote. So we can.
No, sorry,
Instead of-
my
Huh?
my thing virus protection was just like, you have malware. I'm like, yeah, sweet, thank you. Carry on.
Maybe she will. Or I'm sorry. So yeah, the one way is like a pretty achievement-y style. So where we set new goals that you can reach with your clan, for example. So like be the most affluent clan on the game world, or be the only clan who beats the boss in the end, or be the one who like gets to leave the valley, whereas everybody else kind of can't. That's a thing we can do, and it's basically like a checklist of things you can check off. Right, each of them gives you points towards your clan's level, towards your clan's progress, or even we can use multiple levels. We can also use your player level. Unlocks stuff in your player account, which can be titles, which can be skins, which can be avatars. Basically, like breaking points. The other way I can see this going, and maybe that's also private, is that I always have the feeling that there could be different level of servers. I have this idea for like the really high-end pro server is the game world that runs only a couple of times every year, and in order to join it with your clan, you actually have to have one different game world before, or maybe 2 different game worlds that have had the highest ranking. So this could be a game world that's like completely televised. Like there's going to be streaming events. There's going to be daily recaps of how the fight went. There's going to be embedded reporters. But in order to get onto there to play like with the best players, with the best skills against them, you need to first prove yourself in the more game worlds. So that's also something that I see as like over time progress. Maybe it's also that people at some point like from just like playing a game world to creating those game worlds, because it's also something that we still plan for players to be able to do, to create their own game worlds with their own game rules, with their own maps. So maybe that's also something that you like unlock over time as you've gotten more experience with the game, as you've gotten like becoming more experienced, known, useful community member. So that's all potential options I see. I think we're gonna try out a lot of that, like as we usually do, as we do with most features that we have in the game. We try them out in a very rough way, see if it works, and well, thank you.
Yeah. I actually sent you a message the other day, I don't know if you saw it, about an idea I came up with while I was writing this like little checklist thing. Something like, we have a clan leaderboard that's showing a bunch of different stuff, and when the servers come to an end, a lot of the leading clans get to basically look at the leaderboard and challenge another clan, and if they accept the challenge, then we put both of those clans on the same server like next time around, so they get a chance to kind of like compete against like clans that they see as being like a good match for them skill wise.
Yep, that sounds really interesting. That sounds definitely like something we can do. Basically, you can see like a whole game world that runs for like, I have no idea, 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, as like one game, like one, say one game of Dota, but only over like 2 months. You can see like, okay, you can keep score in between clans on like, we won this round, you won the next round, and so on.
Yeah.
And there might be like, there is definitely room for like world rankings between clans, players, most valuable players, most high ranked clans, and so on.
Yeah. Alright, that's actually most of my checklists that I wrote down. The only things I haven't really asked were ones you kind of like touched on anyway, so I didn't really need to go over them. So, what you could do is like, yeah, you can. That's like was my first idea as well. I'm just like, I'm gonna close the map and I'm gonna go shoot some stuff. But you can also, touch on anything else that you feel like we didn't really cover that people might find interesting, like whether it's what you have planned in general, like what people are going to see in the game next, maybe like obviously like 24/7 servers. Actually, that might be a good thing to talk about, like and the changes that we'll see to the game when we move to a 24/7 scenario versus the current 4-hour tests.
Yeah, so right now what we're doing is like very short playtests, right? It's a couple hours, sometimes a day, sometimes it's 3 hours, and people are like, fuck, this is the MMO I want to play every single day. And we're not doing that yet because the game is just like not ready for it yet. It doesn't have a long time progression in there yet. That's why we're currently building the new crafting system. That's why we're putting in a new skill system with like ability system with way more abilities. That's why we like are gonna push up the way you can extend your settlement, because we're preparing everything for the game worlds to run 24/7. That means 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and probably in the first time like for exactly 1 week. So we're gonna go from like 3 hours to 7 times 24 hours of playtest.